Hello, everyone. We've got Shaun Conway here. He's the founder and president of EXO, and he's got a solution to one of the world's biggest problems. As we scale up impact, measuring it becomes increasingly difficult and important. And Shaun has a radical new crypto tool to help us get there. So stick around. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Shaun, welcome to the show.
Hi, Devin. It's really great to meet you and to be on the show all the way from Cape Town.
Well,
I'm really excited to talk about the work that we're doing.
It's a thrill to have you. Thank you very much for joining us. We're excited to learn more about EXO. Tell us a little bit about the technology and how you propose to use this to solve this impact measurement problem that has persisted for really forever in the impact space.
Yeah. So the technology is really about, it's all about data, and it's about new formats for data and the ways in which information technologies are converging. And so I think we're all aware of this incredible convergence of technologies, which are Web 3.0, the decentralized web, which includes this much greater data surface, which is available through Internet of Things, and pretty much everything being connected. So we have that one component, which is the decentralized web. Then in addition to that, we have machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities, which are able to take data and do incredible things with the data. And then with blockchain technologies, we have a mechanism to identify the data and tokenize it in a way that brings economic incentives and the ability to create marketplaces around the data. Now, bringing all of these converging technologies together, we've created really two important things. The first is a protocol, which is called the EXO protocol. And this enables anybody to take data that comes from any form of claim, either a person claiming to do something or a machine claiming to have delivered a service, for instance. So one can imagine a vending machine or a solar panel making a claim with data to have produced some kind of effect, an impact. This data we're able to collect it in a format which is high definition. It's called a verifiable impact claim. And that claim is then taken through a process where it is evaluated, it's machine readable, and so one can apply algorithmic evaluation to this with machine learning and AI. The predictive analytics then passes an opinion on that claim as to whether the claim is true or false, perhaps adds some additional information to that, which makes it more valuable. And then we tokenize the verified claim as an impact token. And the impact token becomes a form of value that can be used in all kinds of innovative financing mechanisms. So imagine this as being a token that can be exchanged for a payment, or that can be set up in an innovative financing, pay for success, impact bond, or many other types of financing arrangements. The second part of it is the infrastructure which runs this protocol. And this is the EXO blockchain. Now, we all know that the problems with the Web 2.0 infrastructure really is that the data gets centralized, and ownership and control and use of that data becomes quite contested. And we're seeing that more and more. We're hearing more concerns about particularly how personal data gets aggregated in these ways. And so what we have is a completely decentralized mechanism. So the EXO blockchain consists of decentralized data stores, which are owned and controlled by the project owners. And they provide completely decentralized, autonomous ability to collect data, process the data, have it validated, verified, and shared from that data store. And then the public blockchain component, which is the network shared across a global network of nodes, forms a global impact ledger. And think of this as a super index database, which provides an index of all of the projects around the world, as well as how they're performing against those claims that are flowing through and being verified.
This is such an important work that you're engaged in, and it differs from some crypto projects in that it seems to be focused on real fundamental social issues and not, this isn't a shoehorned coin that's opportunistically shoved into a social issue or other problem. Really seems to be fundamental. But one of the things that intrigues me is that if I understand this correctly, you've set this up as a nonprofit. Is that correct?
That's right, yes. So we followed the model of the nonprofit software foundations, the joint development foundation model, such as how Linux, Mozilla, and those kinds of software foundations have provided an open source code base which others can then build on, improve. And so you really get a much greater effect through joint ownership, joint participation in the ongoing development of that code, and much greater opportunity to use it in real world applications. Of course, there's an application layer which runs on top of this, which can include proprietary applications. And we see this as really providing a data resource and a set of standards that will underpin an economy that can be built both on the data side of things, but also on the applications that can be built using that data, which would include financing applications. And so really the opportunities here are to create an abundant marketplace driven by data, optimized by the AI capabilities, but incentivized by tokenization.
So you anticipate the token will have a financial or monetary value that it will trade for its economic value in part.
Yes, so if I can explain in a little more detail, each project is able to issue its own token. The token is derived from the underlying data assets. So if I can use as an example, a project we will be implementing together with South Pole, which is one of the largest carbon originators and markets wholesalers of carbon credits. This is a project in Laos where small-scale hydroelectric plants are operated by the local community. Now, by tokenizing the proofs of energy production that come out of those hydroelectric machines, we're able to provide a tokenized version of a carbon credit, and that carbon credit can be traded. That's specific to that project. It uses the common standards around the methodology for deriving the value of that credit in its tokenized form. And it uses standard templates in terms of how the data is collected, verified, and presented as evidence for this benefit. And one can then apply the same basic building blocks, the same standards across really quite a wide variety of use cases. And so another project we're in the process of preparing for is a social impact bond in India with UBS Optimus. So Optimus is the nonprofit foundation of UBS Bank, and they will be operating over the next 4 years a large-scale education impact bond. So seeking to improve the educational outcomes for around 200,000 young girls in 3 states across India, around 160 schools. Now that impact bond mechanism uses the tokenization of the data, the proof that outcomes are being achieved, in order to pay both the fees for the service providers who are helping to make this happen, but also the upside, the coupon value that goes to the investors who provide the liquidity for this project to operate. So you can see that these applications using tokens really are incredibly versatile, and I believe they're going to open up entirely new ways of funding impacts, which is really important for mobilizing resources and capital towards achieving the sustainable development goals, which we really have a short period of time to 2030 to achieve these global goals, which are really about social impact, environmental impact, and economic impact that will improve the world for us all.
You know, Bitcoin set a precedent in appreciation that has, in my mind, corrupted, quite frankly, is the word that comes to my mind, the thinking of the blockchain community and the crypto community, with this idea that coins always go up in value, when in fact, currencies don't do that as a general rule. They trade in a range. If you look at the USD yen exchange rate, it looks a lot today like it did 50 years ago. The euro dollar range has been within, a fairly narrow range for the entire existence of the history of the euro. I get concerned about business models that rely on appreciation of the coin. Does your model rely on appreciation of the coin, or does it use it like a currency rather than an investment? Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are a couple of points here. The first is around pricing. So Hayek, was really a seminal thinker around the importance of pricing within a marketplace to really consolidate a lot of complex information that enables us to value things and kind of know what's going on within a complex system. And so where we have free pricing taking place, it's actually a really good thing to be able to understand, for instance, the comparative value between one proposition and another, one project and another, for instance. But that only applies if you've got free market principles operating. In the case of Bitcoin, this is a scarcity model. It's a model which doesn't really have an equivalent within the natural world. Of course, there are scarcity of resources, but it depends on how we use them. And so in this really old economy, old world model, which is a scarcity model, we're really chasing the old economy. And of course, we're at this crossroads between the old economy and the new economy. The new economy is around abundance. So going back to those hydroelectric renewable energy production capabilities, that renewable energy is free and it's going to flow for as long as people are incentivized to run the hydroelectric plants. The same with solar panels, the same with educating girls. It's not free, but it yields ongoing benefits. It's abundant. And so we really are at the crossroads, as I say, between an old economy model and old economy thinking, which is scarcity driven, and a new economy thinking, which is abundance driven. Now, what is really going to drive that abundance when we start to put it into capital terms is the measures that we can make, the stocks and flows and so on, that are based on data, because data is pretty cheap to produce and is potentially abundant, and it has exponential compounding effects on producing value. And so this really is a mind shift, and I'm hoping that the context of sustainable development and these global goals that have rallied huge consensus around some shared endpoints, measurable endpoints for 2030, that this is going to change the ways in which people think about what is possible, form capital, allocate capital, and we would hope do that on the basis of good data.
So do you see that your coins or your tokens being used as a measure of value in terms of the volume of those coins or the value of those coins? Let me see if I can frame the question this way. We price assets in terms of currency value. I think it's rands that you use in South Africa. I've never been there. I look forward to visiting, but you can price milk in rands. You don't price rands in terms of quarts of milk, right? And that makes a currency functional. That's one of the key things that makes a currency functional. And so if you're looking at the value of a the impact value of a project, it seems like it makes most sense to measure it in terms of the number of impact tokens or IXO tokens that it creates or is worth, rather than to have the value of the token fluctuate so much that we're measuring impact, or the value of the token changes according to impact. How are you seeing this?
Yes, so I just want to clarify that there's when we talk about tokenized systems, there's a lot of different tokens, even within one blockchain. So, for instance, Ethereum has Ether as the gas for the network, but it also has all of these tokens that are generated, ERC20 tokens that are generated for projects. So the gas for IXO is the IXO token, and that should pretty much be, it's a utility token. It should be pretty stable pricing, and it should reflect the value that you're getting out of the network. So that really doesn't have much to do with the impacts that are being generated. It has to do with the hosting services, the data processing, and so on. So are you actually getting, a good service out of the network? What this enables is for projects to issue impact tokens. Now, impact tokens are linked to the non-fungible verified impact claims. So an impact claim says something happened, a unit of carbon dioxide was sequestered, or a child was educated. And that is really what is being priced. And some of these things are easy to price because there are markets. Others are much more difficult to price because they aren't really markets, but they're in the conventional sense, but there are willing buyers and there are willing sellers. And so, educating young girls, there is a government payer who's willing to pay for that education, or there's a family that's willing to pay for the education. And if we can start to value those outcomes and compare them across different options, so am I willing to pay for the education at school A or school B? Well, perhaps they have a different quality, they have different outcomes, the pricing may be different. So really the impact tokens are very specific to the different projects, but we will hopefully begin to see a lot more trading happening between these new asset classes. So if I'm willing to avoid some taxes by buying carbon credits, those carbon credits generate capital for the underlying projects that are creating those carbon credits. Those projects can then trade the revenues that they get for other tokens, and so you can begin to create a whole new marketplace where impact is being traded. So the favors that we do each other. You come and volunteer for 2 hours cleaning up the beach, you get to use the beach. It's this kind of mentality. I think that this is going to be creating a huge amount of innovation capabilities for. Although right now our implementations are a bit more kind of conventional and paid for services and projects.
Interesting. Well, Shaun, you've had a remarkable career. What's the most important lesson you've learned in your career?
Sure, that's a big question. I think that it's to not give up hope and to continue to be tenacious. So every day as a startup founder can be a challenge. I always kind of reflect on Elon Musk's standard response to what is it like being a startup founder, and he describes it as staring into an abyss and eating glass, which is pretty vivid, and it pretty much feels like that, almost on a day-to-day basis. But then you have these incredible highs and these breakthroughs, and I started early on in my career with some quite ambitious programs responding to the HIV/AIDS crisis in Africa, and we really didn't think we were going to get these very expensive patented antiretroviral medicines to thousands of people, never mind millions of people. And yet within 10 years it happened. It was a huge effort. It took mobilizing all different parts of society, It took changing people's mindsets, and it was great to be part of that. And I thought I had kind of done my work to society once I had completed that phase of my career. But I guess what I became excited about is the potential then to build on that and say, well, why not dream bigger? Why not think that it is possible? There are many people around the world who have this mindset, and it's a necessary mindset for us to succeed as humanity. And so I'm very excited to meet people who are working on similar initiatives, who have that mindset, and I get enthused going to meetings, discussing with people, them being part of our community, us being part of their community. And this is not work. This is a life's journey, a mission, and it's beautiful.
Well, I want to ask you a follow-up question to that. You have focused on this mission. You're focused on impact, not on personal wealth building. Why is it so important for you to help solve this huge data measurement, impact measurement problem?
So I think that ever since I was a kid, I remember I grew up in apartheid South Africa, and so we had very little information available to us. And as an inquisitive kid, I looked around. I grew up in a small village. I grew up asking questions and looking around and wondering why things were the way they were. And somehow I'd come across a quotation in a magazine. It was a Ralph Waldo Emerson. There is no knowledge that is not powerful or not power. And it instilled in me this desire to learn and to get information, to get the facts, to get data. And then, as a naive young physician in training, I thought that I'd learned everything. And I remember one of our professors saying, within 10 years, 50% of what you've learned will no longer be true. And the crazy thing is, we don't know today which 50% that will be. And so it made me understand that we need to constantly be looking for new facts, new data, and building on that. And of course, with the technological revolutions that have taken place within our lifetime, it's been truly exciting to get involved, as these new technologies have come about. And you see the potential. You really see how this can be transformative. And we've experienced it. We've all experienced, of course, not always only the good. There are also some negative impacts on people's lives and so on of technology. All the people hooked to Facebook and so on. But really, there's huge potential, and I think this is a creative force. So if we, if you're interested in being creative, in pursuing a path where anything can be possible, we have these incredible tools and these capabilities, that enable that, and that's really exciting.
What is your superpower, Shaun?
It's a creative superpower, I think. So in the moments when I think that there is no solution and I really despair, I try to be quiet, and I try to allow something to speak to me, serendipity, some voice, some intuition, and it solves the problems. There's always a way. I think just believing that there's always a way. And today we might be really frustrated because we don't see the solution. We want to give up. But when we find that way in a day's time or a week's time, we look back and think, well, it's a good thing I didn't choose the other way that I knew wasn't the solution, and I waited for this to come. And so I think really having that firm belief that if you trust your instincts, you trust the universe, you remain conscious to the signals and the opportunities that come to you, the serendipity that happens in life, great things can happen.
Fantastic. Well, Shaun, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, would you take just a minute and tell people how they can learn more about IXO and how they can connect with you personally?
Wonderful. Well, we have a website, ixo.network, And we have a wonderful 2-minute video on the site. So if you just scroll down a little, you'll see really just for 2 minutes of your time, a video that explains in a very inspiring way the mission that we're working on. And then below that, there's all the usual social media, Telegram and our Twitter account and so on. And you're welcome to contact me through my own personal Twitter handle, which I think will be recorded in the article. And we have a wonderful growing community of people who are participating in these social media communities that we've helped to set up. And the level of discussion is really inspiring. People from all over the world, you know, who are bringing their experiences, bringing their suggestions, and wanting to get involved. We have an ambassador program. So for people who really want to get on the inside track, join as an ambassador, and really just watch the space and become involved.
Fantastic. Well, Shaun, thank you very much for being with us today. We wish you every success in measuring impact and making the world a better place.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
All righty, let's do some good.
Thank you for listening. Devin Thorpe's mission is to end extreme poverty, improve global health, and mitigate climate change before 2045 by finding and sharing the stories of those who are doing the most good. You can join with other listeners to accelerate Devin's mission by visiting helpdevin.org right now.